Well, what do we have here? It's another episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series, and today we're going to be talking all about masks. So obviously, if you're a fan of Bionicle, you know that masks are a pretty big thing with that whole Bionicle, and even with Hero Factory, and just Construction in general. Well, not including the Star Wars Ultra builds, they didn't really have masks, but that's kind of beside the point. Masks have been pretty prevalent, whether it's been through mask packs, where you could just buy them in all sorts of cool different colors, or, pretty much every Bionicle set has some sort of really cool mask design, and they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and hey, they add so much personality to a character, to a set, to a mock, and they're just really fun to play with. But, sometimes we can play with them as more than just a mask. We can use them as armor detailing, all sorts of other stuff. So we're going to dive into a few examples today that use masks in some really creative and clever ways, and hopefully that can give you a little bit of inspiration if you want to play around with some of the masks in your LEGO collection. So, let's begin. The very first mock we have today is from a man named Soyoya, Soyoya. You can pronounce it however you like, and this is called Hydro. So immediately right off the bat, we have actually quite a few different masks being used in this mock here. The first one that I love so much is this fantastic head design. So these two things I think are really creative here. The main blue bit here, this sort of weird, almost sort of oval-shaped mask here, this is from the Hero Factory set called Dragon Bolt. It was a really awesome set, big old dragon villain who I think is underappreciated, actually. He's a great little character, and I don't think he gets as much love as he deserves. But that mask there's been taken and flipped upside down, and it's kind of got that natural gap underneath it there where the Brain Slug was inserted, because it was from the Brain Attack wave of Hero Factory sets. And he's inserted another piece in there, just to give it to actually make it look a little bit more like a mask, and that there is a sort of open mouth hole that he can, actually breathe out of. And that really funky kind of white piece there with some other little tan little teeth poking out of it, I believe that's from a Chima Ultra Build Construction set. The Chima Ultra Build's another one that actually didn't come with masks, but at least sort of headpieces, which I guess, look, you can kind of count that as a mask. This is from, I believe, the set called Sir Fangar, and that head there was, to my knowledge, two different pieces, and you could have like a posable jaw. A whole bunch of the Chima villains had posable jaws like that. Really awesome, fun little play feature there. But of course, because you can actually take that jaw off, two separate pieces there, you can use it in stuff like this and get some really awesome results. So I absolutely love that combo. It looks awesome, just a great way to play with the natural gap in that piece. And really cool to see it flipped upside down like that. It kind of starts to make it look a little bit more like some sort of like cult leader kind of headpiece or something. I found these images online that I think kind of sum up at least what I'm thinking, or at least kind of what I'm seeing. I love that. I love that design. If not, he's just wearing some sort of intricate helmet or headpiece of sorts. But regardless, it looks super, super cool. I like the fact that there's kind of a whole bunch of different places on here where you could maybe interpret that's the eye, or the eyes, plural, multiple different areas there where it could be the front, just like kind of two eyes, one above the other, or two on the side, but they're very high up, or maybe the eyes are where those tubes are going through, or maybe he just doesn't see. I don't know. So I kind of like that ambiguity of it. Just makes us a really unique character. And speaking of this being a really unique character, I love the fact that he's got a whole bunch of different tubes and things throughout this, including those chains as well. I like the fact that it's like, why does he have all these tubes? Is he some sort of undead creature? Does he need, life support to keep him together? What's the story that's starting to form here? So I like that kind of ambiguity, and Soye, at least on Flickr, hasn't posted any sort of description or backstory to this character, so I like that you kind of have to piece it together to some degree. That can be really fun and just an enjoyable way of engaging with a mock. But no, I love the inclusion of all those tubes, especially because they kind of fill in a few gaps. They kind of just naturally insert themselves into the different pieces that he's used across all the different armor here. It really looks nice. It's just a fun little detail, but I think it does a lot. I also really like the arm design here. The fact that it's kind of the bulk of it, specifically the lower arm design, by the way. Not the upper arm design's nice, but it's a bit harder to make out some of the details, but the lower arm's what I'm referring to. I love that the bulk of it appears to be that foot piece there, that mutter foot, and how that sort of gives it this interesting angle to the arm. I don't know, it gives it this more sort of overgrown, inhuman kind of look to it. It's kind of not the natural way that an arm maybe looks. I don't know, it just... Maybe it's more the claws that make me think that. I guess it is pretty natural when you look at it. But regardless, it's a really solid design. Great way to use some foot pieces on an arm nonetheless. It's a great way to be playing with it. It's just really cool. It's really cool indeed. I think this is a very creative, very clever overall character design that just looks fantastic and has some brilliant techniques throughout. And we'll finish on another mask. Of course, he has those Gadunka masks being used there as sort of like, I don't know, shoulder armor, I guess you could say. It's very fitting. It's very cool. It's very big and stocky, which kind of matches the general look. Thank you, computer. Hello. Which matches the kind of general look of this character. Big, bulky, strong, a bit of a bruiser type, which I really like. So, love your work there. Let's move on to the next mark. This one here is by Oblivious, and this is called the Abomination. And a few more mask usages on here as well. Quite a lot, actually, which is really nice. I love how he's used a whole bunch of these different skull spider pieces. Of course, these skull spiders were used across G2 Bionicle sets, and they came in a plethora of different colors. Whether that was gold or that spring green or dark blue, as we see here. And silver as well. Don't forget your silver. But hey, I love seeing them being used here, almost to sort of form like scales, perhaps. And I'd actually quite like the fact that they are the sort of differing colors. Yeah, maybe you could have taken out all the spring green, and replaced it with just purely dark blue. I think that actually would have looked really nice. But I also really like this almost sort of, maybe it's kind of like a bioluminescent look to it, or just the fact that it has kind of multicolored scales. It just kind of, I don't know, it's just a really different thing to do. Bit sort of out there, a bit more unique, more distinct, I suppose. So it's just, I like that. Instead of going with the sort of more common, typical example and the more sort of common, typical color scheme, he's sort of stretched the limits, and I really like that. That's certainly something to play with yourself, you know? Yeah, what you could pick one specific option, but maybe everyone does that. What's the thing that you could do that's actually really different? Maybe different to what you normally do, or maybe different to what the vast majority of other people in the Bionicle community do. It's something to consider, something to think about, and it's certainly something to play with. So definitely something you might want to consider there, because as we see here, it's a really beautiful organic design. They really flow one into the other. And it forms a beautiful looking, more sort of like serpent-like design here. It's fantastic. I also love too how they flow nicely into that Nokama Hordika mask there. Surprisingly, they're pretty similar shapes, and just the kind of natural contours of that Nokama mask, they beautifully flow into the skull spider head, just at least the way that he's designed it there. So I love that. And it's nice too that it kind of, it continues the general shape, but I like that it sort of transitions as it gets towards the body of this sort of almost kind of like snake person design. It kind of really helps just to differentiate that area and make it a little bit more obvious that the body is ending and transitioning into the tail, or the tail's transitioning into the body, however you want to word that. I love that. I think it's just a really, really clever idea. Another really clever idea here is the inclusion of Mantax's head there from the Baraki set there. I just think it's a nice way to kind of round off that tail. You know, we have already got black and silver on the color scheme here, more towards the head, so it's nice to see it at the back there as well. And just the general shape of it, again, seems like a very fitting, natural, kind of almost sort of like weaponized tail. It looks like that could hurt if he sort of whacked you with it. So it's just nice design there, and just a great way to use that piece. Really, really cool. And yeah, overall the head design I think is really nice as well. Not really using any masks there, more sort of brick built using a whole bunch of other pieces, although it does have a wolf head there from some old Viking sets. So yeah, kind of a mask, or at least a sort of headpiece, I guess, you know, which we're kind of classifying those in this episode. So yeah, really, really solid design, really nice, kind of evil, sinister, monster-like look to this Abomination, as it was called. I adore it. Really nice work there. So on to the next mock, which is a bit of a series of mocks here. This is by Sylvac the Mockist, and these are called Cleanser Drones. So immediately right off the bat, I'll showcase that there is a whole bunch of different examples. They're all fairly similar to each other, but there are some nice differences between them, and they all use the same gully mask here, which is also called a cow. I've always loved that name because it's just cow twice. I mean, it's not spelt like cow, but it's a cow. It's a fun mask, fun name. But of course, this was one of the fairly early Bionicle masks, and like I said, there were mask packs that you used to be able to buy. If you want to buy them still sealed in the packet now, they're very expensive, but some of these masks are still fairly cheap online that you can get. Some of them are not, depends on the color you want to buy. But something that's so cool about all those early masks, you have so many colors to pick from. And I love the idea of doing something like this. If you have a mask, and you want to use it in a cool way, and it exists in other colors, could be fun to build the same thing, but in a different color. Or kind of have a bit of a running theme, you know, similar to this. Some of these guys are almost identical, but some of them continue the concept, but vastly change the body shape. I love that idea. Just a fun way to get a bit of a series going, and it could even be fun. Maybe you're like, no, I'm going to commit. I'm going to go out and buy all those masks. And you got the anticipation of them coming in the mail and arriving, and then you get to build them. Or maybe you just naturally have them in your collection, and it's a great way to take them out of a parts bin that's just sitting there doing nothing and give it some life. Build something, have some fun, you know? So I love that idea, and I love all these different character designs too. They're very creative, very cool. So let's dive into some of them. I love these guys here, these sort of two-legged dudes, these trans-clear brothers, I guess you could call them. I love the fact that they have these little orange highlights on the side there, which I assume are sort of like eyes or sort of visual receptors if these guys are more sort of robots. And I love the differing guns that they have too. One's sort of got heavier ones, one's got sort of almost sort of lighter weight ones there. They're pretty cool. And the inclusion of the Borok eyes there to complement the same color of the mask, that's great. And of course, I should mention, this cow is put upside down once again. And it's also something to really pay attention with masks is, can you use it the way it's typically, supposed to be used? Or can you flip it upside down, put it on its side, and then can you use it differently that way? Because this cow here, it looks more like some sort of windshield. Maybe there's somebody inside these mechs piloting them. It's more of a sort of microscale build in that regard, So can you use masks in different ways that they're not intended? But, when we see it like here, it looks like they're actually intended for that purpose, even though they weren't. But yeah, really solid design, really great way of using masks. And hey, yeah, can you put them upside down? What sort of stuff can you get with that? Some of the other guys here, I love this little four-legged one here, on almost sort of more bug-like, the blue one there, really cool. I also like the idea that those could be guns, but since these guys are called cleanser drones, excuse me, and the little quote here says, it will all be cleansed for the intelligence. That's cool. It's a little backstory. Kind of reminds me of the Borok. They were kind of similar to that. But I also like the fact that, yeah, those could be guns on its back. Or they could be like, they don't shoot bullets or lasers. They shoot like hand sanitizer or like detergent or whatever. And it's like, oh no, he's going to shoot me. But no, he just cleans stuff. I kind of think that's fun, I don't know if that's what they actually do or not. Maybe cleansing means getting rid of organic matter and killing people. Hopefully not. But, still, either way, love the idea. And it's really fun to think about, I enjoy that. I also like this green guy here too, the fact that he doesn't have any guns and he has like blades, which those could be blades, but I also like the idea that he kind of picks stuff up with them, and like the fact it's kind of far away, like he's got to pick up all the really annoying dirty stuff, and it's kind of like, ew, 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 as he transports it. That's cool, I like that. And just a great way to use those pieces as well. It works really well for this concept. But yeah, a whole bunch of different really awesome looking dudes here. Great to see all these different multicolored guys, same sort of concepts and techniques being repeated. But, it's still being different and unique with each one. And there's something Patrick Biggs said in an old podcast I did with him, where he said, I've made this one specific technique, but just because I've built it once and put it in one mock doesn't mean I'm done with that technique. Can I continue to use it? Can I continue to expand it? What other cool ways and cool ideas can I come up with that same idea in mind? Can I advance it further? Can I get even better with it, It's certainly something to consider when you're building stuff. Just because you've done it before doesn't mean you can't do it again. It doesn't mean you can't do it again, but differently, and maybe even better this time. I think this is also a nice example of that. I'm sure he built the first drone and was like, this is cool, but how can I expand it further? It's a great way to look at stuff. I love that. It's awesome. So, fantastic work. Sylvac the Mockist. On to the next mock. It's by Mitch Henry, and this is Sound and Vision. So this is a little bit of a tribute to David Bowie, of course, someone that Mitch very much enjoys, very much loves. And, yeah, this one's a little different, because the other ones we've seen, it's like, okay, how can we use a mask as a sort of detail or part of the aesthetic of a mock, or use it for armor or a shoulder or whatever. But this one here, it's an actual mask. And, yeah, it's got that cool painted pattern on it. I'll read the description that Mitch Henry has here. He said, special thanks to Sergei Rakamanov and his incredible use of the crystal how, which can be seen here. I'll briefly include that as well. Let me get a picture of that one here. But yeah, so he had that as inspiration, the mock by Sergei there. And then he says, additionally, mold up masks for a wonderful the paint job on this Bakari here. So I also like that. The fact that he's gone to a company like Mold Up Masks, or there's a lot of other different places you could do it. Or maybe you're an artist yourself, you like painting, or you know someone. Why not do that? Grab a Bionicle mask. Maybe you've got a whole bunch of them. Maybe it's just one you have a specific paint job in mind for. Why not paint it? Why not go online? Go to some of those, Shapeways and other things, or get a 3D printer yourself. Make one. There's a lot of customization options that you can do with masks, and maybe you can do something cool like this. Whether you want to paint or customize a mask and put it on a mock and use it as armor detail, use it as a mask, or do whatever, that's one option. Or you could do something like Mitch has done here, where it's just a little sort of tribute build, you know? Maybe you want to build something like this and put it on your desk just as a reminder to something that you love, or just, you know, a nice little ornament that can pretty up your room. Or maybe you just want to take a nice picture like this, post it online, and it's just a nice picture. Yeah, it's nice to take pictures. It's something I find very enjoyable, very cathartic, very nice. So maybe that's something you want to do yourself, you know? Can you paint or stylize a Bionicle mask in some way, you know? Sure, this is a pretty different example to the other stuff we saw, but hey, it's always nice to think outside the box, try different stuff, you know? Maybe you've never done this before, maybe now's the time to, you know? Give it a go. See how it might be. See if it's fun, you know? And heck, maybe if you're not so sure about actually painting a mask, maybe if you're a bit of a Photoshop ninja, you could, you know, get Photoshop open and just, you know, edit over the mask. So that way, you know, you've still got that nice picture. Everyone thinks you've painted it, but you haven't, in fact. It's a little bit of Photoshop trickery there, you know? You still get a nice picture that you can post on social media. You know, it's up to you. It's up to you. But hey, I think that's a really cool idea. Certainly something to consider. But hey, that's up to you. Do what you please, but I adore this. I think this is a great little, one, just a great little image, and two, a great way of playing with a mask there. And also, hey, in this day and age where construction pieces, you know, don't really come out as often unless it's sort of snuck into a Ninjago set or something, because, you know, there's no set construction theme at this point in time, at least the time I'm recording this episode. Maybe tomorrow something will get announced. I hope so, because there's no plans for that right now, to my knowledge. But hey, painting stuff, buying some 3D printed stuff, getting some bootleg stuff, who knows? That's kind of the best way to get brand new stuff if you really want to play with new things. So, something to consider. A lot of creative possibilities there. Love your work, Mitch. And also, big thanks to Mitch. He sent me all the links for this episode today, so I didn't have to come up with a theme and plan stuff out and search for mocks. He's just like, hey, I got you. Why don't you do a mask episode? And I was like, God bless you, sir. That was so helpful. So thank you for that. I love it when you've done that. You've done that before, and I really appreciate it, dude. So thank you. And hey, if you're sitting there and you're like, I could suggest a whole episode's worth of themes for Ben, that actually helps me out so much. So if you can, do it, you know? Not that I'm like struggling to come up with themes here, but, you know, of course it takes time to look for stuff, to come up with a theme and all that. So it makes my workload a little bit that more easier. Really do appreciate that. Anyway, thank you, Mitch. Let's move on to the final mock now. So speaking of custom masks and different things here, this is a mock by Joxon, and it is called Holland Hunter, something like that. So I mentioned the custom mask thing. So Mitch, in his email, he included this picture. So apparently, Mr. Joxon obtained this set here. Don't know where he got it, but as we can see from the little text there on the image, it is not an official Lego set, but it's kind of just, you know, a direct copy off of originally existing Lego pieces. And I think the coolest thing about this set is the fact that you get that beautiful, beautiful mask in dark green. And Joxon's put it to good use. I love how he's used it here, you know? Yes, it's a bootleg piece. It's not official Lego. I'm sure that's sending a few people crazy right now, but hey, it looks cool and it got the job done. And just like I said before, it's a great way to play with new parts. What I love so much about this is putting that mask upside down like that kind of starts to make it look like some sort of military helmet of sorts. Some sort of thing you might see on a soldier in World War II, perhaps. I think that kind of sort of fits with the aesthetic of this guy here. He looks like some sort of soldier robot thing from some sci-fi movie or something. It's a really cool idea. But I just love the inclusion of that mask inverted like that. It looks really cool, really stands out, gives it this nice sort of beautiful shelled look to it. Very military-like in nature. It's awesome. There's some other masks being used here. We have this Metru mask on the shoulders here. It's sort of, I don't know, there's a really dynamic look to it. The very sharp angles of it are really just sort of prominent and proud. Really works for a shoulder design, and honestly, masks always work well for a shoulder design, most of the time at least. So hey, if you're looking for a good shoulder design, put some masks on there. We also have another mask there, and that's being used, that Hordika mask there, that's being used very nicely as just sort of torso armor. But I think the coolest thing about it is the fact that there are the natural eye holes inside the mask, and he sort of inserted that tube through the eye hole, just as a, you could argue it's an illegal connection, but yeah, just neatly inserting that tube into the natural space there, more of a sort of friction connection perhaps. And it just is a good way to kind of integrate it into the actual head design on this character here. So certainly something to play around with your masks. Look for those sort of naturally exposed holes that might be on the mask and see if you can feed things through it, play around with it, put some pieces into it or out of it or whatever. and see what sort of stuff you can come up with, because you could get cool stuff like that, which is a nice little happy accident that works in with the rest of the mock. Really, really cool. Some other stuff I like about this, because that's kind of it for the masks on here, but yeah, they're great examples of using masks very well on a mock. But yeah, other stuff I like, his cool flamethrower. I love the fact that there's a big yellow tube that connects to sort of barrels on his back there. It just looks nice. The yellow's really striking, really pops up against the very distilled, darker colors of this mock. I love the little inclusion of the very slight flame piece on the end there, just enough to let you know what it is. It's really cool, really fitting. And I love the inclusion of all the sort of system pieces on the thighs there. Just works really well. Those sorts of pieces there, those beautiful curved slopes, almost always work well as thigh armor or just a part of a thigh design like that. Really, really nice to see some system pieces being used so well. But yeah, man, fantastic mock, lots of great techniques, and it's using masks really, really well. So that's it for this episode today. I very much hope that you enjoyed. Maybe you've got some masks at home that you want to play with. See what sort of stuff you can do with them. Don't look at it as a mask. Look at it as just another design element that you can put into a mock to armor it up, to pad some stuff. Who knows? There's lots of possibilities. But if you enjoyed looking at these mocks in today's episode, be sure to check the links in the description. You can see some of the other stuff that they've made over there. And hey, maybe even comment, leave a like, all that sort of stuff on the original posts, and let the original builders know what you think of what they've done, because hey, they're good builders, they deserve a bit of love. Additionally, while you're in the description, you can see the submission email. It's also on your screen right now. You can see it right now. And if you send images, a description, whatever you want to put in the email to that exact email, I will consider it for the show. It goes into the submission folder there. I'll look through it every time I do an episode, and if I can put it in, if it works, one day it'll appear on the show. And now, of course, there's no right or wrong way to send an email. Just do it. Just send it my way. And, of course, your patience is key. There's a lot of submissions I've got to work through, but I'll do my best to put it in an episode when I can. Additionally, in the description below are links to my social media, so if you want to check out some of the stuff that I've got going on over there, that's the perfect place to do so. And that includes my Patreon as well, so if you're interested in a little bit of bonus content, you can become a patron, and you can get access to stuff like my additional Patron podcast, my private Discord server where you can have a nice private chat with me, and you can just, in general, see what sort of stuff I've got going on, other behind-the-scenes content, all sorts of cool stuff like that. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you very much. Bye. Happy building. Bye for now.